Welcome back to Thimbleberry U. I am John Jagay, joined again by Amy Walls from Thimbleberry Financial. Hello, Amy.
Hello, Jag.
So one of the things that I really enjoyed doing these podcasts with you over the last, I want to say it's been 2 years at this point. It's been a little bit. Yeah. And that is that you really have your finger on the pulse of this idea of the psychology of money. And when it comes to financial planning, so much of it is behavior and psychology. And today we're going to really get into the mindfulness of money. So where do we start?
Well, to talk about this, let's address a couple of items to help lay a foundation for this conversation. We hear this term mindfulness, I think, all the time. It's a buzzword these days, right?
It is, yeah.
But so often it seems like people are using it differently.
It's a little overused, yeah.
So how I'm going to define it, and I did go to a number of sources in looking this up, knowing we were going to talk about it, because I wanted to make sure my definition actually fits what experts talk about.
Sure.
So how I'm going to define it is being fully present, aware of where we are and what we are doing, feeling and sensing, and doing that without judgment or reaction.
All right.
So, it's really being able to be that neutral observer, the fly on the wall watching you.
Sort of like stepping outside yourself and realizing what's going on.
Absolutely. And there's some really cool benefits from mindfulness outside of money. Okay, so I want to leave the money aside for a little bit. And some of this comes from an article from Harvard Health. Mm-hmm. Mindfulness improves well-being. So if you are practicing mindfulness, it's easier to enjoy life's pleasures and have a more satisfying life. Who wouldn't want that?
Right.
You're able to move through worries and concerns easier. You spend less time focused on success and self-esteem. And people who are mindful form better and deeper relationships.
It's just that sort of being present as opposed to, on the device that's in your pocket. It's all the time, that kind of stuff.
Yeah. And then it also improves physical health. Mm-hmm. So I think we've all heard that it helps relieve stress. It can lower blood pressure. It can also reduce chronic pain, improve sleep, and alleviate and treat other issues such as heart and gut related items.
And neither one of us is doctors. Neither one of us is playing a doctor on this podcast. But again, this is from the Harvard Health article that you're citing. It's almost common sense that mindfulness would really help you physically feel better in a number of ways.
Absolutely. It improves mental health too, right? So you're physically feeling better. You've got better relationships. Now it's improving your mental health. And it's a component of the treatment of a variety of things like depression and anxiety, conflicts between couples. We're going to talk about money, and you always share stories of you and Ellen, but also substance abuse and other items. So improves well-being, physical health, and mental health. That's all good stuff. Who doesn't want that?
Absolutely. And, we've seen over the last 2 years, especially, the pandemic has exacerbated a mental health crisis in this country. And practicing mindfulness, while not a cure-all and not a, Swiss Army knife for everything, it is one tool that can be used to help you mentally and physically feel a little bit better as we struggle with all kinds of things in our daily lives.
That is so true, Jag. And as a financial advisor, if I now start to bring this back to money, my job is to help clients get what they want out of life. Mm-hmm. Basically, we can take those three components, being aware, being non-judgmental, being non-reactive, and apply it to financial decisions in our financial lives to improve them.
And I think a lot of this comes down to spending. Because that's an area where there's a lot of judgment, there's a lot of self-judgment, there's a lot of judging each other, there's perceived judgment, and whether that's personal spending, you're keeping up with the Joneses next door. How does this area of mindfulness apply to someone's spending patterns, Amy?
Yeah, such a good question, Jag. First, as a financial advisor, I want to put it out here that I don't want to be involved in budgets and budgeting with clients.
That's interesting. Okay.
I don't. We have talked about spending, and sometimes my clients will end up using the word budget, but I truly want nothing to do with budgets for clients. Partly because where you choose to spend money is a personal choice.
Okay.
And I think budgets go against being mindful and feeling good. They create stress. They're one more thing that we're supposed to live up to and achieve and do successfully.
I think about the budgets that I have set, and that is an accurate statement. Yes, it's caused me much stress.
They just don't feel good.
Especially when I go over it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I think a better strategy is a spending plan. And that may just sound like semantics, but it ties to the things we've talked about in earlier podcasts. If you can allocate all of your big ticket items, the mortgage, your bills, your short-term savings, your long-term savings, which I'm just going to say it, are expenses that we have to plan for.
Yep.
If you allocate those up front each month and set that money aside, and you have a general idea of where the other dollars are going to go, and that's important so you don't forget to give yourself money for food, for example.
Fair.
Then you can let yourself spend intentionally and mindfully with the rest.
Okay.
You have a general idea, right? If my groceries, for example, run for our household $1,000 a month, and we're out doing something and I spend $200 on an activity for the family, I might just need to be more cautious about the groceries, or it can flow to some other area in this group of open expenses. But if I don't think about that, then I am going to overspend if it needs to come out of food. And that's the area that I can adjust, right? Because my spending plan still only allows me to spend X amount.
Conversely, on the other side of that, we were talking offline. I agreed with my wife to not get any takeout for the month of January. And we are recording this on February 1st. And I'm looking at where I am financially compared to, I won't say budget, I'll say spending plan, but I am way ahead of where I normally am because I haven't gone to X, Y, and Z restaurant because I happen to be on that side of town and I really like their burger or whatever it is.
Absolutely. It's amazing. And so what I love that you just said, Jag, is that you got to do less of some things, takeout, and now you have more wiggle room to do the things that really matter to you.
Or save it.
Yeah, exactly. The point, though, is that you get to spend it where you find joy or save it, right? For another thing where you find joy.
Sure.
Have you ever watched Marie Kondo's decluttering shows?
I haven't, but I'm pretty familiar with it. It's the whole get rid of anything that doesn't spark joy, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And so in the shows, people accumulate stuff or have accumulated stuff, and they're now ready to simplify their lives. Of course, it wouldn't be a good show if they didn't feel better in the end. And I think most of us can relate, right? It does feel good to spring clean.
Yeah.
So, we talked about this idea of mindfulness as being something that needs to be done without judgment. When I refer to spending where someone finds joy, it's something to observe. Like you said, the takeout, that probably wasn't part of your goal to save a lot of money in deciding to not do takeout in January. I think it was about health from our prior conversation.
Yeah, it was about health and lifestyle for sure.
Okay. Now that you've done that, you got to observe your spending.
Right.
And you said, wow, there was a positive impact from this that wasn't just health related. I find it funny. The takeout is a great example because my husband and I get busy and we start spending on takeout because we're busy.
Sure.
Right. And we're not being intentional in that moment. But ultimately, it's not where we'd like to spend the money. So we can look at our spending, notice that it isn't serving our end goal. And our real goal is that we want to have more family fun. And then we can choose to align our expenses differently in that spending plan, if you will.
Makes sense.
Right. But I think something to note here, too, is if our real goal is family fun, then if we're out and, on some adventure for the day, we go to the coast and come back and it's too late for us to make dinner at a reasonable time, and we go out to eat or we get takeout on the way home, well, then that case of takeout or meals out totally aligned with our goal.
Right.
Because it let us spend more time together having fun out as a family.
That makes sense. Amy, I'm thinking about our prior episode where we talked about Aesop's Fable, ants, grasshoppers. Can you refresh our listeners on that and how that's relevant to our conversation today?
Yeah, so the Aesop's Fable is that the ants go and collect all this food and store it up, right? They're putting it down in the ground. And the grasshoppers come in and they eat up everything in the moment. And they've got nothing left later on. And so I like this analogy for people's habits, right, when it comes to saving. And as I said earlier, my job is to help people get what they want out of life. And so, and I'm not really calling people ants and grasshoppers here. I always get worried that I'm going to be perceived as labeling everybody as ants or grasshoppers, and that's not the case.
Amy, I have been called much worse.
But when people are showing the ant tendency, right, to gather and have it there as a reserve, sometimes as an advisor, my job needs to be helping them be okay spending that money.
Right.
Because it's about getting what they want out of life. And so for them, the mindfulness is not spending, which is what I think often the idea is, mindfulness and money, that means I need to be aware and not spend. For people who have a tendency to hold on to money, it's helping them know that it's okay.
So I will own the fact that my wife Ellen and I are ants and grasshoppers respectively. She's always been an ant and I've always been a grasshopper. And this is why we work so well, because I will encourage her to spend if I see there's something she really wants. She'll encourage me to save as opposed to blowing my money on something stupid. I can almost hear her laughing if she were in the room right now. But I mean, a case in point is what we're talking about with the takeout. Like, she encouraged me, don't spend any money on takeout this month. Conversely, we were on vacation in Hawaii in December, and there was a necklace that she really fell in love with. Oh, I don't know if I should. You know what? Yes, you really love this necklace. This is something you can be intentional on and spend the money that you really want to purchase. So she's helping me. In a way, it's almost like she's helping me save money. I'm helping her spend money, and we're meeting somewhere happy in the middle.
Yep, I love that. And, Jag, I think the word that you touched on in that is intentional.
Yeah.
Right? It's being intentional about what you're doing. I think that's such a cool, powerful word. So we talked about the ants. Grasshoppers are obviously the opposite. They might need, so for you, Jag, to hold back, as you said, so you can do more of what really matters to you and what you're passionate about.
Right.
It's not about not spending. It's about spending in the right spot.
All right. So what are some tricks to adjusting these behaviors?
Yeah. So there are some different strategies. Maybe it is set a purchase dollar limit.
Okay.
So if a purchase costs more than a certain amount, you need to sleep on it.
That's fair.
It might also be set a monthly limit. So in this spending plan, right, you may have your plan and then you've got a bucket, if you will, since we know I talk in buckets, this bucket of money that is your mindless spending if you're more of a grasshopper and you're working on reducing that.
Okay.
So maybe that starts out at $500 a month. And as you work on this by not buying things over a certain dollar amount and sleeping on it, you start to realize, I'm not spending as much of that. You can start to bring that dollar amount down.
Right.
And just consciously work on that section of your spending plan. For someone who is more ant-like and isn't spending and they have room to do so, I think one trick is to make a list of experiences or things. I think sometimes experiences are easier for people to do, especially when they involve other people.
Yeah.
And so make a list of those things that would make your life more fulfilling, forgetting about the money, just making that list. And then going through the list after you've settled on it. It's kind of like your bucket list, right?
Yeah.
You've settled on it and set some goals and dollar amounts to those things and give yourself permission over time to accomplish those.
So those are great basic strategies for both the ant and the grasshopper, Amy. What are some other ways that someone can be mindful about money?
Yeah, definitely it comes down to spending because then you're able to save more. But I think the thing that comes to mind from your question, Jag, is about choices in investing.
Okay.
So there's regular traditional investing where, there's stocks or mutual funds or ETFs, but there's also something called social impact investing.
Mm-hmm. There's
a couple different parts to social impact investing, but it's making conscious, intentional choices about where you invest your money. Okay, so there's socially responsible investing. Investopedia defines that as investing in companies that promote ethical and socially conscious themes, including environmental sustainability, social justice, corporate ethics, and fight against gender and sexual discrimination.
Okay.
Can all be some great stuff. Another form of social impact investing is what's called environmental, social, and governance investing, or ESG investing. So again, using Investopedia as my source on this, ESG investing focuses on companies that support environmental protection, social justice, and ethical management practices.
Okay.
So with ESG, they may not exclude certain things because they're really looking more at the practices that the companies are using and often giving them a grade to decide which companies are best to invest in.
Okay.
And then another option for social impact investing is impact investing. And this is investing to help an organization or a business complete a project or develop a program or do something positive that will benefit society.
I like this. So as you're talking about your long-term investments, it's something that you might be passionate about, you feel strongly about, or something that's going to lead to something tangible, like you said in that last part about impact investing.
It lets you choose how you want your money to work for you and how you want it to help others at the same time.
I like that. So it's about your spending plan month to month, day to day, week to week, but also long-term in terms of investing and having that mindfulness and really stopping down to think about it, which I don't think people do often enough when it comes to their money.
I think we often just go with, this is what I know, this is what I've heard about, and so it's good enough.
Right.
I think, Jag, the last thing I'd say about this, it's all about being aware of what you are doing and why you are doing it.
I think that's true across the board for all things that we've talked about today, Amy. And if somebody wants to come talk to you at Thimbleberry Financial about any of this or anything regarding their financial future, how do they best find you?
They can find us online at thimbleberryfinancial.com or by giving us a call at 503-610-6510.
All right, Amy, I am going to turn off my computer and meditate for a minute, be mindful about what I am doing the rest of the day. Really good stuff today. We'll talk soon.
All right. Thanks, Jag.
Registered representative, securities offered through Cambridge Investment Research, Inc., a broker-dealer, member FINRA SIPC. Investment advisor representative, Cambridge Investment Research Advisors, Inc., a registered investment advisor. Cambridge and Thimbleberry Financial are not affiliated.